On vacation in Malaysia, suddenly recalled to the country urgently. Turns out I'm not my parents' biological child. The family possesses trillions in wealth, but my adoptive mother has difficulty conceiving. They adopted me and raised me as their own daughter. My adoptive mother was very concerned that I might feel wronged. We've looked into your biological parents. They're quite poor. If you ever suffer any hardships, you must tell us at home. In my late 20s, I went to meet my biological parents with mixed emotions. At their home, a girl about my age sat between my biological parents. They warned me, "We've long considered Sherry our own daughter, and most of our assets will go to her. We hope you won't overthink it." I sincerely asked, "Then why did you bring me back? If it wasn't to call me back to inherit the family fortune, could it be because you thought I was doing too well outside?" Mr. Lincoln snorted coldly. The bloodline of the Lincoln family must not be left wandering outside. In the past, every time I hadn't seen my adoptive parents for a long time, they would prepare a gift to celebrate our reunion after separation. On the first day of reuniting with my birth parents after a long separation, they gave me a big shock. Before coming, my mother tearfully described how poor my birth parents were, as if I were heading to a beggar's den. Now it seems the Lincoln family is slightly better than I imagined. The girl caught in the middle had red, teary eyes. "Sister, I know you've suffered a lot outside all these years. I've taken your identity for so long, and you must be unhappy, but I really don't want to leave Mom and Dad." Her biological mother hugged her tearfully. "Sherry, what nonsense are you talking about? In our hearts, you've always been our own daughter." Her biological father looked at me even more sternly. "In our Lincoln family, there's no such thing as a real or fake heiress. Sherry is our biological daughter, and she's also your own sister. We've pampered and nurtured her to be so outstanding with all our love, and we don't want you to harbor any ill intentions." I watched the affectionate scene between mother and child before me, momentarily at a loss for words. Not that I felt particularly sad. A person in their 20s, having grown up bathed in wealth and love, who would dwell on whether their biological parents truly loved them. Mrs. Lincoln noticed me standing empty-handed in the living room, dressed so splendidly, yet not a single piece of luggage to show. I came to my senses and shrugged. Nothing worth showing off. My parents packed too much luggage for me, so I planned to have our family butler Bob arrange for someone to deliver it all later. But I changed my mind and decided not to have them deliver it for now. Upon hearing my words, Mrs. Lincoln immediately frowned. "Small families are always stingy. After raising you for so long, they haven't given you anything decent. Don't even think about clinging to our Lincoln family, no matter what your original family was like. We hope you won't bring any of those bad habits into our home." Mr. Lincoln took out a card. "Here's 200,000. Consider it gratitude for raising you this far. We hope this card will help you cut ties with them and prevent you from coming to our doorstep demanding repayment." My eye twitched. So stingy. 200,000 isn't even enough to bribe Bob the butler. Footsteps sounded on the stairs, so there was another person in this house. A man in a suit walked down the stairs with a dark expression. Sherry called out, "Brother." Daniel Lincoln glanced at me. "Sherry is my only sister." "I am confused." Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln said nothing upon hearing this. "Daniel, where are you going?" Daniel Lincoln: "Recently, I've been getting along quite well with Bruce, the eldest son of the SY Group. Bruce invited me to dinner." Mr. Lincoln suddenly stood up. "The SY Group, as expected of my son. You've even managed to befriend someone like young Masterly." Daniel Lincoln curled his lips into a smile. "In just half a month, the Mitchell family's heir will return home. The Mitchells will host a welcome banquet then, and Bruce has promised me an invitation." Mr. Lincoln's eyes even reddened with excitement. "That Mitchell family?" Daniel Lincoln nodded smugly. "The Mitchell family, the elite among elites." The Mitchell family had few descendants, consisting only of a pair of siblings, a sister and brother. The one Daniel Lincoln mentioned was none other than the young master of the Mitchell family, Frank, rumored to have royal ancestry in the Mitchell lineage. Frank earned the nickname Crown Prince. Mitchell was his surname, and wealth was his destiny. Father and son were still passionately explaining the mystery and nobility of the Mitchell family. I was flushed with suppressed laughter, afraid I might burst out laughing at any moment. "My name is Sophia, and my adoptive parents' Smith family has been close friends with the Mitchell family for generations. The eldest daughter of the Mitchell family and I grew up practically sharing the same pair of pants. Yet I've never heard such rumors before. This is absolutely fascinating." My phone vibrates twice. Oh my, it's a message from the Crown Prince. Crown Prince, sis, I heard you're back in the country. It's so boring abroad. I want to come back too. Crying face, JPG, me, Your Highness the Crown Prince, greetings. Frank looks puzzled. At this moment, Sherry, listening to Daniel Lincoln's words, was completely captivated by the young master's majestic presence. Sherry's eyes sparkled with admiration. There actually exists someone as divine as the young master in this world. Mrs. Lincoln nodded. Such an outstanding young man. I wonder which family will be fortunate enough to have him, as if hinting at something. For top-tier wealthy families like the Mitchells, some people might never have even heard of them in their entire lives. Ha 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 ha. Seriously, did they actually say that? Mia nearly spat out her coffee laughing. Amused, I nodded. Daniel Lincoln said he'd take Sherry along later. And right now Sherry's head is completely filled with thoughts of your little prince. Mia and Frank are siblings with only a few years between them, and they've been fighting since they were little. Mia, at the welcome banquet, that little shadow Frank will surely stick to you like glue. Won't your sister be furious when she sees it? I took a sip of coffee. That whole family looks down on me. Should I go up now and say I used to spank the young masters but when he was picky as a kid? Mia was laughing so hard she could barely stand. Your family is something else. How on earth did they decide you were poor? I sighed. Sigh, maybe I just reek of poverty. Mia rolled her eyes. If Miss Smith here is poor, then there are no rich people left in this world. I smirked mischievously. Well, there's still the eldest princess and crown prince of the Mitchell family. Mia bristled. Sophia. Stop laughing. Butler Bob called me and asked if I should temporarily hold off on sending the luggage, and whether Lucky should be sent as well. Lucky seems to be in low spirits lately without seeing you. Lucky is my pet cat. Previously, while playing at Mitchell's house, a dirty little white cat sneaked into Mitchell's yard. Oh, by the way, the young master of the Mitchell family is afraid of cats. The servant was about to shoo the kitten out immediately. I saw that the little white cat was filthy and had a lame leg. Looking utterly pitiful, I simply took the cat to the vet to treat its leg and get it vaccinated, named it Lucky, and have been raising it ever since. I gave them the address. Bring it to me, I'm out with Mia right now. Before long, Mia peeked into the cat carrier and couldn't help but sigh. Lucky, you're getting uglier by the day. I gave her a light tap. Don't talk nonsense. She's not ugly at all. Our Lucky is the cutest. Mia apologized quickly. Sorry, Foo, you're super adorable. Objectively speaking, Lucky wasn't exactly easy on the eyes, but that was just my first impression. Now I just think my Lucky is adorably ugly, uniquely ugly, especially when Frank, who's both scared of Lucky and acts like he really likes him and wants to pet him. Lucky always obediently watches Frank. And just when Frank finally gathers the courage to pet him, Lucky immediately runs away, not letting him touch a single cat hair. How could there be such an adorable little cat in the world? Ah, where did this ugly cat come from? Sherry screamed. When I first returned to Mitchell's house, no one was home, so I placed Lucky in the living room, unexpectedly. Sherry screamed as soon as she entered, startling Lucky. I picked up Lucky, feeling somewhat displeased. My cat, you're the ugliest. Sherry showed a look of disdain. Sorry, sis. My friends only raise breeds like Abyssinians or Devon Rexes. Haven't seen much of this kind of cat. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. How ignorant. What a country bumpkin. Before long, the rest of the family arrived one after another. Daniel Lincoln held an invitation in his hand, his eyes brimming with joy. Mitchell family's invitation allows bringing 2 additional guests. Sherry clung to his arm. Brother, Daniel Lincoln immediately patted her head. Buy yourself some nice clothes these days. Sherry cheered happily. She seemed to think of something again, looking at me. Brother, let's bring sister along too. I was speechless. Daniel Lincoln gave a light hum, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. It said that even the usually low-key Miss Smith will attend this time. The Smith family is a clan that can rival the Mitchell family. The information is accurate. Daniel Lincoln's eyes revealed ambition. I've long heard that Miss Smith is gentle, graceful, and stunningly beautiful. A fair lady is a gentleman's desire. Mom, Dad, if I could marry Miss Smith. I was startled. What the hell? No way. I'm your sister, Mr. Lincoln was thrilled upon hearing this. Daniel, you're handsome and so outstanding. Even Miss Smith would surely like you. No, Miss Smith wouldn't. Sherry suddenly acted coyly. Mom, Dad, will the young master like me? Forget about the young master. I see Frank as my own younger brother. Dad said you're my own younger sister. You and Frank are siblings from different parents. You can't be together, Mrs. Lincoln was already blushing with delight in her fantasy. Sherry is so beautiful and adorable. Of course the young master would like her. Hold on to this opportunity tightly. Understand. I feel like I'm about to faint. This whole family has truly gone mad. Sherry, why did you ask Daniel to bring Sophia along, Mom, without comparison? There can't be any harm, with Sophia standing next to me as a contrast. Won't the young master notice how outstanding I am? You're absolutely right, Sherry, you must win the young master's heart, understand. Then we can have Daniel marry the Smith family's daughter. Soon enough, our Lincoln family will be among the elite. Don't worry, Mom. By the way, have you seen Sophia's ugly cat? I've been gathering information about the young master these past few days, and I heard he doesn't like cats. Sherry's voice dripped with malice. I've hated that cat of hers for ages. It always yowls at me and nearly scratched me several times. Damn beast. Sooner or later I'll finish it off. When the time comes, we'll find a way to make Sophia bring that cat along. That'll instantly make her earn the young master's disgust, and her ugly cat will be done for too. Humph, treating it like some treasure every day. I wouldn't take it even if it were free. It's so worthless, Mrs. Lincoln nodded emphatically. Exactly, such provincial ignorance. That cat isn't even a pedigreed breed, let alone show quality. I'd be embarrassed to be seen with it. We only brought her back for the marriage alliance, but with her unsophisticated ways, I fear she'll drag our Lincoln family down. I swear I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just happened to hear it. I took a deep breath, suppressing the urge to go in and punch someone. We've kept Lucky for so long, always letting him roam freely around the house. With so many maids and servants in the Smith household, I've never heard of anyone being scratched by Lucky. Lucky's favorite thing to do is scare Frank, but he's never actually scratched him. At Lincoln's house, Lucky was often kept locked up by me. How could he possibly have gone after Sherry? The investigation results I ordered a few days ago just arrived in my hands. Many doubts in my heart were instantly resolved. Turns out Mrs. Lincoln wasn't my biological mother after all, but rather the mistress who took her place. My mother died during childbirth while giving birth to me, and Sherry isn't some so-called adopted daughter. She is Mrs. Lincoln's biological daughter, a bastard child just 3 months younger than me. The dumbest one in the whole family is my own foolish brother, Daniel Lincoln. I sneered coldly. Truth be told, I couldn't be bothered with this entire family. I really don't understand why they always have it out for Lucky, out for a walk. And somehow I feel like I saw someone who shouldn't be here right now. Frank flashed a toothy grin. Surprise, that you didn't see this coming. I nodded. Weren't you supposed to be back in 3 or 4 days? Frank said, with such a big thing happening to you, how could I stay abroad? Sigh, from now on, my status will be worlds apart from the young masters. Don't tease me, sis, I'm here to deliver your invitation. It's different from all the others. And this is the only one I'm delivering personally. It really is different from Daniel Lincoln's. This one is practically blinding me. Frank wore the expression of a child seeking praise. I couldn't help but recall Daniel Lincoln's remark about the young master being cold-blooded and ruthless, decisive in action. In the end, I naturally didn't use the one Frank gave me and instead tagged along using Daniel Lincoln's pass to get in. Well, Lucky was also brought along at Sherry's strong insistence. As soon as I entered, people kept glancing at me from time to time. I knew what they were probably thinking. What's this woman doing bringing a cat? I had asked the same question before coming. Sherry insisted she wouldn't feel at ease leaving Lucky at home, and I was also afraid that if we really left her at home, Sherry might do something bad. Just bring Frank here directly. Fortunately, the Lincoln residence is located toward the outskirts, so no familiar faces were spotted for the time being. Daniel Lincoln was busy networking everywhere, while Sherry's eyes darted around incessantly. Miss, how did you manage to bring a cat in here? At this moment, an unfamiliar servant suddenly exclaimed. All eyes turned toward them. Sherry, my sister heard that young Master Mitchell likes kittens, so she brought her beloved pet hoping to share more common topics with him. Damn. Not even pretending anymore. Whispers surrounded me, probably commenting on how shamelessly I was trying to climb the social ladder. The maid sneered. Then you must be mistaken. My young master despises cats. A commotion arose nearby. Frank had arrived. Hearing the noise, the woman seized Lucky when I wasn't looking. A crowd of onlookers had already gathered around. Frank walked over. What's going on? The woman spoke first. Young master, there's a lady who somehow heard you love cats and brought one in. clearly trying to latch onto you. Sherry immediately chimed in, Brother Frank, please don't blame my sister, she just really wanted to get to know you. Frank frowned first. Who's your brother? His eyes lit up at the sight of the struggling cat in the woman's hands. Lucky, everyone froze. And I took the opportunity to reclaim the cat. Frank rushed over. Why did you bring Lucky too? I get it. I must have been abroad too long, and Lucky missed me, right? I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly, Stop flattering yourself. Frank's ears instantly turned so red they looked like they could drip blood. Sherry was completely stunned and pushed me away abruptly. Sis, don't bring these underhanded tactics to deal with the crown prince. Nearly losing my balance, Frank grabbed my arm firmly. The force was strong, pulling me directly into his embrace. Frank's gaze turned cold as he looked at Sherry. Are you out of your mind? Sherry stomped her feet anxiously. Young master, you don't understand. My sister was only recently recognized by the family, and she harbors resentment toward me, knowing I admire you. She's eager to get close to you. Frank couldn't help but laugh. Which eye of yours saw Sophia trying to get close to me? Hasn't it always been me taking the initiative to get close to her? My face grew slightly warm as I wriggled out of his embrace and stepped back. Frank had always called me sis since childhood. Why did he suddenly start using my name? If a younger guy stops calling you sis, his intentions might be a little wild. Mia didn't know when she had come to stand beside me. She casually added, Sophia, your brother started asking about the Smith family's young lady the moment he arrived. How exhausting. Frank had already walked over and taken Lucky from my hands. Looks like he's gained weight again. Before picking it up, he whispered softly, Lord Lucky, please don't scratch me. Usually, Lucky wouldn't let Frank touch it, but today it obediently curled up in Frank's arms. With Frank here, almost everyone gathered around. Daniel Lincoln arrived late and was completely baffled. Why is young Master Mitchell holding Sophia's cat? Bruce standing beside him exclaimed in surprise, You know Sophia. Daniel Lincoln was even more confused. Sophia. Bruce said with frustration, the heiress of the Smith family, who wouldn't call her sister. After being surrounded by the crowd, many former friends recognized her. Quite a few people showed up at the Mitchell family's welcome banquet. Frank couldn't be bothered to endure flattery from strangers, so he pulled a few of us close friends aside to have our own fun. Sherry tried to tag along but was stopped by Frank's bodyguards at the door. Those security guys showed no mercy. When Sherry clung to their arms refusing to let go, they simply shoved her to the ground. Sherry felt like she had lost all her dignity for a lifetime. I'm not entirely sure what happened afterward. After hanging out for a while, it was almost 4 by the time we got back to Lincoln's place. Sherry is too shady. I was afraid she might do something desperate. So I temporarily handed Lucky over to Mia. I hadn't expected it to be almost 4. Yet the house was still brightly lit. The family of 4 sat neatly arranged on the sofa, each with different expressions. Mr. Lincoln was the first to speak. A young girl coming home so late. What kind of behavior is this? Sherry sobbed. Sister, why didn't you tell us sooner that you knew the crown prince? Did you deliberately want to make fools of us? Do you even consider us family? Mrs. Lincoln frowned. When Sherry wanted to go with the crown prince, why didn't you let her? How could you treat your sister like this? Daniel Lincoln swallowed hard. You're the Smith family's heiress. I didn't respond to any of this family's accusations, just smiled and said, Steward Bob will come to collect the luggage this afternoon. We won't be staying here these few days. Truth be told, I don't really have much luggage in this house, but there are several toys that Lucky has grown accustomed to playing with, so we'll need to take those. As for what else they said afterward, not a single word reached my ears. So sleepy. When I was about to leave in the afternoon, I was unexpectedly stopped by this family again. I grew impatient. What exactly do you want? Mr. Lincoln cleared his throat lightly. Sophia, why have you never mentioned that it was the Smith family who adopted you? They raised you for so long, as your parents. Of course we should personally visit to express our gratitude. Sure enough. The living room was already piled high with gifts. Butler Bob stood beside me and snorted softly. Our young lady has been back for over half a month. If they truly wanted to thank them, they would have done so long ago. The sound wasn't loud, but it was audible enough. Several people blushed instantly. Laughter erupted from behind as Frank walked in, twirling car keys with one hand and keeping the other in his pocket. Uncle Smith took Aunt Smith abroad for vacation. Their flight was this morning. If you hurry, you can still catch them. He looked at me. Since your uncle and aunt aren't here, Miss Smith, Shall this humble one escort you home?" With that, Butler Bob discreetly withdrew. Mr. Lincoln, already past 50, was so infuriated by this younger generation's sarcasm that his beard seemed to bristle. "Where did this brat come from?" Sherry called out. "Young master, Mr. Lincoln's face turned pale with fright. Daniel Lincoln was putting on a polite act. "No need to trouble young Master Mitchell. Sophia is my sister, and it's also my responsibility to see her safely home. I really wish I could record his previous words and play them back for him. Sherry is the only sister I have." Frank smirked maliciously. "With your license plate, I doubt you'll make it up Smith's Hill before getting in the car." Frank mysteriously told me to wait a moment. I was completely baffled. "You're not going to pull out some flowers or a little cake like you did last time, are you?" Frank looked a bit embarrassed. "You've always said I'm crazy, so I didn't prepare anything this time." I nodded in satisfaction. The next second, Frank actually pulled a cage out of the car, and inside it was a hamster. "I am confused," Frank explained. "Sis, you have lucky. I thought I should get a pet too, so we'd have something in common." I thought about it. "This one's small, doesn't need walks. Just keep it locked up, and it's not troublesome to take care of. Perfect fit." My eye twitched. I was truly at a loss for words. "Let me introduce you. This is my son, Happy." I forced a smile. One careless moment and he'd turn into Lucky's meatball. Of course, Frank made up the story about my parents traveling. The truth is they just came back from a trip. I was taken back by the Lincoln family, which made Mom very sad. So Dad took her on a trip to cheer her up. They sent me over 500 travel photos in half a month, justifying their overwhelming urge to share by saying, "We're afraid you'll forget Mom." I was speechless. Now, Mom and Dad are eagerly awaiting my return at home. Seeing me come back with Frank, they immediately stepped forward. "Frank, it's been ages since we last saw you." Frank had already turned into a well-behaved boy. "Godfather, Godmother, I've missed you so much." My mom wore an expression that saw right through him. "Humph. You little rascal, you're missing our Sophia, aren't you?" Frank shyly scratched his head. My mom squinted at me again with a meaningful smile. My dad wasn't as warm and enthusiastic toward Frank as before, often rolling his eyes or sighing. "Why does everyone seem to be acting so strangely since Frank returned to China last time at Mitchell's house? Aunt Mitchell even slipped me a bracelet, although Aunt Mitchell had always given me things before. That bracelet last time looked especially expensive. What's going on? What did you say?" "Frank wants to marry me." At night, after Frank left, I let out a sharp scream. My dad immediately looked at my mom. See, Sophia clearly doesn't want this." My mom wasn't happy. "What's wrong with Frank? I've watched that boy grow up. He's completely trustworthy." My dad: "So what if he's perfect? My daughter can stay at home. Can't I support her forever?" My mom got angry. "What will happen when we're gone, leaving her all alone?" My dad: "Even if I'm not here, my money will be. With all this money, isn't it just for her to spend freely?" Stop. Can you two just quit it? Hurry up and say, pa, to ward off bad luck. Live 100 years. They obediently said, pa, and under my insistence, each repeated 3 times, "I can live to be 120. Frank was unwilling when the Mitchell family wanted to send him abroad. Until Mrs. Mitchell made an offer. "As long as you're willing to go abroad, I'll help you pursue Sophia." Frank jumped up in shock. "How did you know, Mrs. Mitchell? You're my son." With just one look at your expression, I knew you were head over heels in love. "Actually, ever since you were little and only let Sophia touch your piano, your mother has been pondering this matter." Frank was utterly shocked. "You've kept this hidden so deeply." Mrs. Mitchell was also very true to her word. As soon as Frank went abroad, she told my mom about it, but my mom was firmly against long-distance relationships and insisted on waiting until Frank returned. "By the way, let me test my idea again. Oh, I know Sophia well. Back when they were kids, there were so many rich second-generation kids playing together, but Sophia only chased after our Frank. She must have liked him. Both of them are grown up now and haven't been in any relationships. They must have been saving themselves for each other." So said Mitchell's mother. I was waiting for Frank to return to China before putting this matter on the agenda, but then I went on vacation to Malaysia, and before the trip was over, I got caught up in the Lincoln family's affairs. I forgot one more thing. I gave that $200,000 card to my dad, and repeated Mr. Lincoln's wish that this card could sever ties with the Smith family. My father held the $200,000 card in his hand and asked me, if I give them 20 million, can they promise not to bother you anymore and return you to us? I patted my father on the shoulder and said, I'm already grown up. How could they possibly imprison me? In my heart, there's only you and Mom. During this time, my father had already investigated everything. Not long after my biological mother passed away, Mr. Lincoln married Mrs. Lincoln. At that time, Daniel Lincoln was still very young. And Mrs. Lincoln treated him quite well. Even before Mrs. Lincoln entered the household, Daniel Lincoln had already met her and called her Auntie Pretty. As for me, I wasn't so fortunate, a newborn girl. No one liked me, and no one cared for me. They probably didn't even know exactly when I was abandoned. This time, it was only by chance that they found me, heard I was still alive, and thought having an extra daughter might open another path for the Lincoln family. If I hadn't met my current parents, I probably would have died long ago. I took a deep breath. Mom hugged me. Sophia, you are mine and Dad's child, the one we love most. For me, they didn't just give me money and love, they gave me life itself. Our family isn't predetermined by birth. It's something we choose for ourselves. No matter what, I'm your biological father. It was me who gave you life, and that's something you can't change. Sophia called back to the Lincoln household again. Mr. Lincoln was so furious he slammed the table and stood up. Mrs. Lincoln stepped in to mediate. Sophia, don't be angry with your father. After all, you're still part of the Lincoln family. If the Lincolns prosper in the future, it'll only benefit you. Having an extra support system can't hurt. Daniel Lincoln, if it weren't for us, you wouldn't even have had the chance to latch onto the Smith family's coattails. Besides, you're just their adopted daughter. We're your only real family in this world. Sherry, I brought you back this time originally intending to marry you off to the second son of the Williams family. Now that you're the heiress of the Smith family, you'd naturally look down on the Williams' second son. But we've already made arrangements with the Williams family. Because of you, we've lost the Williams family. We haven't blamed you for this, so isn't it only fair that you compensate us a little? I felt overwhelmed. After all this beating around the bush, what exactly do you want? We've heard you're quite close to the Crown Prince. As long as Sherry can be with him, the Lincoln family status will naturally rise. I nodded. Then how are they supposed to get together? Sherry lifted her chin. Just create opportunities for me and the young master, and I'm confident I can win him over. Oh. I don't agree, Sherry glared. What right do you have to disagree? I stretched lazily, picked up my bag, and headed out. Because Frank is my fiancé. Sis, did you really call me your fiancé? Frank wagged his tail like an excited puppy. I couldn't resist ruffling his hair a couple of times. Sherry kept pestering me to play matchmaker, spreading a little rumor. Frank grinned broadly, with a hint of ingratiation. Faking it till we make it isn't such a bad idea. I suddenly fell silent. Staring at Frank, I've been thinking a lot these past few days. I think about it a lot. I must like Frank. Although Frank has always called me older sister, I'm not actually much older than him, because I'm close with Mia. Frank ended up calling me older sister, too. But as Frank grew up, he gradually stopped calling even Mia older sister, yet he still calls me that. Do I really just see Frank as a younger brother? That's not how it is. I like Frank too. Seeing me remain silent for so long, Frank gradually stopped smiling. I was just joking, sis. Oh, it was a joke. I put on a disappointed expression. I was just thinking about how to tell my parents about this. What joke? I'm not joking at all. It's truer than true, truer than real gold. Frank stammered excitedly. He hurriedly pulled a ring from his pocket and knelt on one knee. Darling, thank you for choosing me. With that, he gently kissed the hand wearing the ring. I lifted his chin with my finger. Are you sure you want to propose to me today? Frank blushed. Every time I see you, it's in my pocket. But he was a coward. Taking one step forward would give him the whole world, yet taking one step back would leave him with nothing. He longed to have his sister, but he feared even more losing the chance to remain her friend and forfeiting his place by her side. Anyone could see that the Crown Prince had been in an exceptionally good mood lately. He actually wore a ring on his hand. The Lincoln family hasn't been doing too well lately. Frank originally rushed back to the country fearing I might be upset after hearing about my situation. After seeing me and realizing I was hardly affected, he didn't inquire much more about the matter. Recently, having some free time, I started looking into these matters, and after finding out, I was absolutely furious, especially Sherry, who somehow found out about his whereabouts and kept blocking him repeatedly. Annoying him was bad enough, but she had to go out of her way to sow discord and constantly slander me. after Sherry suddenly jumped out to stop Frank once he got in the car. He finally couldn't take it anymore. "Get out of my way, or I'll run you over." The expression was so terrifying that Sherry shuddered and whispered, "Killing is illegal." Frank nodded. "My wife just agreed to my proposal. I still value my life." I smile at Sophia. "And you all think I'm naturally cheerful and never get angry, right? Sophia has been indulging you because she's kind, but I, Frank, am no saint." A sudden cold breeze sent chills down Sherry's limbs. The weather's turned cold. It's time for the Lincoln family to go bankrupt. When I saw Daniel Lincoln again, I was already engaged to Frank. The once arrogant young master was now dressed in rags. He looked at me with resentment. "Sophia, I'm your own brother. How could you do this to me?" I was utterly confused, as I hadn't done anything at all. But I still instinctively replied, "You said it yourself on the first day I entered the Lincoln household. You only have Sherry as your sister." Daniel Lincoln burst into laughter. "So you did all this just to make me admit that you're my sister? Fine, now you've achieved your goal. I admit you're my sister. Are you satisfied?" His words left me even more baffled. "Don't force yourself. I haven't done anything anyway. From now on, let's just go our separate ways." Daniel Lincoln suddenly went mad. Dad got so angry he had a seizure and died. Sherry and her daughter took all the valuables and ran off. "I've got nothing left now, absolutely nothing." "No, I still have you, you're my sister, and behind you stand the Mitchell and Smith families. You can definitely help me make a comeback." I took a few steps back, frowning. "Daniel Lincoln, your affairs have nothing to do with me, but I'm your brother. Have you ever done anything a brother should do for his sister? Since returning to the Lincoln family, you've been telling me not to even think of claiming any connection with you." Daniel Lincoln's eyes gradually grew hollow as he slid down beside her, collapsing weakly onto the ground. His face was filled with anguish, tears of remorse falling as he kept murmuring, "I'm sorry, little sister, I was wrong. Brother was truly wrong. Brother regrets it now." I close my eyes and take a deep breath. I know my remorse is genuine, yet what he regrets was never the harm he caused me. He only regrets that once there was a ladder to heaven placed before him, and he failed to cherish it. He regretted why he hadn't seized the wealth that was originally within easy reach. In the end, I placed a card on the ground: "No more ties." It was because of Daniel Lincoln that I learned about the Lincoln family's affairs. Without a second thought, I knew Frank must have done it. Frank looked pitiful. "Sis, I just thought they were too mean. You have no idea how awful that Sherry girl's words were." As he spoke, Frank even got angry. I stroked Frank's fur. "No matter what, they are indeed connected to me by blood." Frank grabbed my hand. "I'm your family too, and we'll have blood-related relatives in the future." I blushed. "Don't change the subject. No matter what Sherry does, she's still an immature little girl, although the Lincoln family hasn't treated me well. They haven't done anything truly evil." Frank hugged me. He was very tall, and my ear pressed against his passionately beating heart. "All right, I understand, my dear wife." I lightly punched him. I sent Frank's people to rescue Sherry and her daughter, and they reported back saying, Sherry and her daughter got into a car accident while fleeing with the money, and both died before the ambulance could even arrive. And Daniel Lincoln. Last time I saw Daniel Lincoln, I left him a card. The money in that card was enough for Daniel Lincoln to live a simple life peacefully, or if he really wanted to make a comeback, it could serve as seed money. But Daniel Lincoln, under someone's guidance and temptation, developed a gambling addiction. Not only did he lose all the money in his card, but he also ended up deep in debt. In the end, debt collectors broke one of his legs and chopped off 2 of his fingers. Utterly humiliating. Frank wore an innocent expression. "There's nothing we can do about it, sis. It's just karma catching up to those villains. They got what they deserved for all their wrongdoing." I couldn't help but sigh deeply, feeling an indescribable emotion stirring inside me. Frank took my hand. "All right, sis. Let's not think about them anymore. You'd be better off deciding which wedding dress to pick with mom soon." Sigh. "My wife would look beautiful in anything. I'm so looking forward to seeing you in a wedding dress, sis." I smiled smugly. "Of course. Is there anything I don't look good in?" Frank nodded in agreement. "I really want to buy all the clothes in the world and fill your walk-in closet with them." My mom's voice came from outside the door. "Sophia, Frank, are you ready yet? Your mother-in-law is urging us to go pick out wedding dresses together." "Ah, coming." Nothing has changed in any opportunity. My life is still filled with love and extravagance. The Lincoln family's matter seemed like just a small episode in my life, although it made me realize I wasn't biologically related to mom and dad. it also showed me their love wasn't about shared blood. After everything happened, Mom told me, "You're the family dad and I chose with our own hands. And that will never change. We love Sophia because she's beautiful, kind, optimistic, our little sunshine, but more importantly, because of all the stories we've shared and the bonds we've formed together. Connections between people are not solely written in blood, but are diverse and multifaceted." Frank grinned foolishly. Sophia is also the wife I personally chose. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was 18 years old when my biological parents finally found me, their true heiress. At my birthday banquet, the fake heiress played a disappearing act. As my parents and brother were about to rush out the door in panic, I humbly begged them to stay and finish the cake with me before searching for her. They agreed, but unexpectedly, the fake heiress got into a car accident that very night. From then on, everyone blamed her death on me. In utter despair, I jumped off a building and ended my life. The excruciating pain I anticipated never came. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at that birthday banquet. I watched coldly as my parents and brother John anxiously scurried around like ants on a hot pan, preparing to leave the banquet hall to search for Jessica, who had suddenly gone missing. This time, I didn't humbly beg them to stay. Instead, I smiled and watched them leave. The guests exchanged puzzled glances but soon took the hint and began leaving one after another. Finally, only I remained, dark-skinned, gaunt, and clad in an ill-fitting pink gown, standing alone in the empty banquet hall, looking as ridiculous as a clown. Yet I didn't feel particularly embarrassed. I simply walked straight to the dining table, cut myself a large slice of cream cake, placed it on a plate, and devoured it in a few quick bites. In my previous life, Jessica had been drunk driving the wrong way on a mountain road when she collided head-on with an oncoming truck. The person didn't even make it to the hospital before passing away. Henry, Susan, and John ended up hating me because of it. They believed I deliberately delayed things, causing Jessica's death. After that, Henry treated me like I was invisible, refusing to say a single word to me. Until one year on Jessica's death anniversary, he finally turned to me with bloodshot eyes and said, "If only we hadn't brought you back that year." John would often mock me for being vain and coveting wealth and luxury. When I tried to defend myself quietly, he would take out a voluntary waiver of inheritance rights agreement and ask me to sign it. Yet at that time, I was still naively holding on to the delusion that someday they would accept me. One day, my adoptive mother, who had been missing for a long time, suddenly showed up at my door. Not only did Susan not have her thrown out, but she also generously wrote her a large check. She thanked my adoptive mother for allowing her and Jessica to share 18 wonderful years as mother and daughter. Yet Susan knew perfectly well that before I returned to the Hudson family, my adoptive parents would frequently beat and scold me, often leaving me without even a full meal. She smiled and thanked the person who brought me a misplaced life and profound suffering for giving her such a wonderful daughter, Jessica. In despair and collapse, I jumped from the rooftop. Fortunately, heaven gave me another chance at rebirth. This time, I will never again grieve or suffer for people or things that aren't worth it. 2 hours after the birthday dinner ended, Henry and the others actually brought Jessica back. She was like a wronged little kitten, nestling entirely in Susan's arms. She cried uncontrollably. "Mom, I thought I'd never see you all again." Susan stroked Jessica's head while holding her even tighter, as if letting go would make this regained treasure vanish once more. John's handsome brows furrowed with heartache, while Henry's eyes reddened beside him. Jessica wiped her tears, only for larger droplets to roll down consecutively. She sobbed quietly. "I didn't mean to ruin Hannah's birthday party. I was just afraid you wouldn't want me anymore after having Hannah." John feels most distressed for Jessica, hearing her say this. He immediately turned his head and glared angrily at me standing nearby, as if my mere existence were some unforgivable sin. Henry and Susan even wore expressions of deep regret. I know they must be regretting recognizing me as their own right now. Otherwise, their precious daughter wouldn't have suffered so much. Watching this melodramatic soap opera unfold with cold detachment, I instinctively curled my lips in disdain before turning to head upstairs. It seems Henry and Susan will come to negotiate terms with me by tomorrow at the latest. Sure enough, before dawn the next day, I was summoned by the two of them. I sat aside, silent as usual. Henry hesitated for a moment, deciding to try persuasion before resorting to force. "Hannah, Dad knows you were wronged at yesterday's birthday dinner. Next year, Next year Dad will definitely throw you a better one to make it up to you." He glanced up at me briefly before continuing. "But over the past 6 months, Jessica has been really shaken up because of your presence. If John hadn't reacted quickly this time, she would have almost collided with a large truck. So Mom and I thought about it all night and decided it's best for you to move out. You can move back in once Jessica gets better." Then he quickly added, "Of course. Dad knows this is very unfair to you, so you can live wherever you want. Dad will buy you a big villa there and give you lots and lots of pocket money every month." "Hannah, how does that sound?" Henry and Susan looked at me with hopeful eyes, afraid that I might disagree with their arrangement and bring things to a standstill. But how could I possibly disagree? I couldn't wait to get as far away from them as possible, so without a second thought, I said I wanted to study in Norway. Henry and Susan couldn't suppress their smiles, their eyes and brows brimming with delight, looking as if they were about to rid the house of its jinx. He didn't even ask me why I wanted to go study so far away. Henry swiftly handled all the study abroad procedures for me. In less than half a month, I was on a plane heading to Norway, thanks to the foundation I'd built in my previous life. I quickly completed the preparatory course and then specialized in econometrics at the University of Oslo. Ever since I went to Norway, Henry and Susan have only asked me every couple of months if I had enough money, showing no further concern beyond that. Jessica, on the other hand, messages me much more frequently. "Look, Hannah, today is my university registration day. The whole family came out to help me move my stuff. Hannah, we're at the airport now. Mom said she's celebrating my birthday this year in one of the castles in France's Loire Valley." Hannah. I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that I would win first prize at the Chopin International Piano Competition. The whole family is overjoyed. She didn't forget to attach a photo of their happy family of 4. It felt like both a boast and a reminder that she was the only daughter of the Hudson family. Jessica always loved playing this game. When I had just been recognized by the Hudson family, she would come to me whenever she had free time and tell me how good Mom, Dad, and brother were to her, what they bought her, and where they took her to play, and everything she mentioned was something I had never experienced. At first, I tried my best to endure it, but in the end, I couldn't suppress my jealousy and shouted at her to shut up. Then John happened to pass by and saw it. He instantly furrowed his brows and glared at me fiercely, then pulled Jessica protectively into his arms, as if I had bullied her. When Henry and Susan learned about this, they immediately confronted me with stern expressions. In the end, they even scolded me harshly, telling me not to bring my rural shrewish habits into the Hudson family. That day, I cried alone in my room for a very, very long time. It was also the first time I felt so clearly that I might never truly become part of their family. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the second semester of my sophomore year, while I was busy preparing for final exams. Ruby suddenly started gossiping with me mysteriously on WeChat. She is Linda's daughter, the live-in housekeeper at the Hudson residence, and also my only friend in the Hudson household. Ruby said that a few days ago, Susan flew into a rage at Jessica, scolding her so harshly that Jessica nearly cried herself unconscious. Hearing this, I couldn't help but be shocked. Henry and Susan dote on their daughter excessively. No exaggeration could capture their indulgence. Normally, he wouldn't even say a harsh word to her, let alone scold her, but this time, he actually lost his temper with her. It was truly an eye-opener, like a small knife stabbing something unexpected. Turns out, Jessica was spotted by a talent scout from a film company while shopping with her girlfriends. The company thought she had great potential in all aspects and wanted to sign her to groom her into a rising star. Jessica was quite tempted after hearing this. She loved the glamorous life of being in the spotlight, so Jessica secretly signed a 10-year contract with the company without telling her family. At first, she planned to attend school while also fulfilling the schedules arranged by the company. This way, she wouldn't neglect either side. However, Jessica's university was known for its strict academic standards and simply wouldn't allow her to frequently skip classes or take leaves. So she made a decisive move and applied for a leave of absence from school. Such a major decision as taking a leave of absence naturally couldn't be kept from Hudson's family. At first, Susan tried earnestly to persuade her, insisting that she must finish college no matter what, but Jessica, who had always been obedient and sensible, was determined to pursue her dream of becoming an entertainer. Later, both Henry and John took turns trying to convince her, but none could change her mind. Susan finally flew into a rage. After hearing Ruby recount the whole story, I could barely suppress a scornful laugh. In Henry and Susan's eyes, Jessica played the piano with divine skill. She was heaven's favored child, destined at the very least to become a musician, yet she chose what they considered the most disgraceful profession imaginable. From now on, the Hudson family would inevitably become the subject of gossip among their business associates during casual conversations. And these two individuals cared most about saving face. How could they continue to cherish her as before, when the jade they had meticulously polished for years willingly chose to degrade itself, just as they would never cherish someone like me, once ugly, cowardly, and with only a junior high school education. Jessica's path to stardom hasn't been smooth sailing. Initially, she tried to create buzz by portraying herself as a wealthy heiress chasing her dreams in the entertainment industry. But such personas are far too common in showbiz, and netizens long stopped finding them novel. Despite pouring substantial marketing funds into it, the campaign failed to make even the slightest splash. She wasn't willing to start her career playing supporting roles in TV dramas, so she could only make brief appearances in various obscure variety shows. But after half a year of these appearances, she still looked no different from an ordinary person. However, she soon discovered the secret to gaining popularity in the entertainment industry. In a regular variety show, Jessica hit it off with a rookie male artist who was handsome and charming. The two were passionately shipping their CP, with all sorts of marketing and trending hashtags soaring non-stop. The pairing of a cool, reserved aristocratic genius girl and an energetic, puppy-like boy successfully had many netizens exclaiming they were totally hooked. Even someone like me, who doesn't often browse the internet, occasionally scrolls through short videos and still sees related recommendations. Clearly, the hype is anything but low. She successfully gained a large number of fans and widespread recognition. However, every gain comes with its loss. Jessica had been betrothed since childhood. Her fiancé was Nathan, the future heir of the Stewart family. This marriage is considered a social climb for the Hudson family. Thus, the elderly matriarch of the Stewart family has never been entirely pleased with it. Now Jessica has caused a scandal by being involved in a romantic affair with someone else. It's essentially a public slap in the face to the Stewart family. Mrs. Stewart was so furious that she ended up hospitalized. The first thing she did after waking up was to have her grandson Nathan return the engagement token from back then. Ruby said that because of this incident, the entire Hudson household was under a dark cloud, and Jessica didn't even dare to go home. Linda even told her to move out quickly to avoid bringing bad luck to the family. Actually, it's no wonder Henry and Susan are angry. The Stewarts and the Hudsons have always had business dealings. It's probably a relationship where one side eats the meat and the other gets to sip the broth. With things turning out like this, forget about being in-laws. Even future cooperation will be extremely difficult. I sent Ruby some money so she could find a better place to settle down. She and Linda have always been frugal, and I was afraid that if I didn't remind her, she would just make do with whatever cheap place she found on her own. Other things don't matter much, but safety is crucial for a girl living away from home. On the WeChat chat interface, it kept showing typing, but no message came through. I know Ruby feels embarrassed about accepting this money but doesn't know how to refuse. So after thinking it over, I told her that I didn't want to stay at the Hudsons after returning home, and this could be considered as helping me find a place in advance. Coincidentally, the semester is almost over, and it's about time for me to go back. When I arrived at the Hudson family mansion, Henry and Susan were having tea in the living room. The moment they looked up and saw me, they visibly froze. 3 years apart, I was no longer that timid, dark-skinned, and scrawny little girl. Not only was my demeanor calm and composed, my features had filled out, and even my eyes had gradually blossomed. Now, one could say I embodied all the best physical traits of Henry and Susan, more like the two of them than even John. Perhaps only now did they vaguely begin to realize the wonder of blood ties. So almost without any transition or build-up, Henry and Susan's attitude toward me did a complete about-face. Susan took my hand and asked softly if I was used to life outside and if my studies were tiring. Henry sat beside me, gazing at me with affectionate eyes, occasionally handing me sliced fruit to eat. After having dinner together, Susan was about to have someone prepare my room, but I gently stopped her. Mom, I've already found a place outside. There's no need to prepare a room for me. I'm afraid Jessica might, when she sees me again. Before finishing my sentence, I deliberately lowered my head with feigned melancholy. Henry and Susan exchanged glances, their eyes flickering with a hint of heartache as they slightly furrowed their brows. Yet ultimately, they said nothing more, simply instructing the driver to take me there. Over the next few days, I went back for meals every now and then. Occasionally, I would accompany Susan shopping or enjoy tea with Henry. Even John softened his attitude when he saw me again. He stopped calling me Hannah by my full name and instead gently addressed me as little sister. It seems it's about time to return to Norway. Before departure, Henry and Susan were preparing to take me to the airport. Jessica, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, suddenly appeared. I guess my return this time must have given her a sense of crisis. Henry's expression instantly became somewhat unnatural, and Susan's face darkened outright. It seems the matter of the Stewart family calling off the engagement had quite an impact on their relationship. Seeing this, Jessica said nothing, only shedding tears one after another. This was also her usual tactic. It was always like this. Whenever Henry and Susan showed me the slightest kindness, she would start crying non-stop or simply disappear. But tears lose their value when shed too often. Add to that Jessica's behavior over the past year, which truly brought them nothing but shame. So she cried alone for a long time, her tears all dried up, yet no one came to comfort her. Susan even frowned with some impatience. As the atmosphere grew increasingly awkward, I thought about it and decided it was best to slip away immediately. After all, some conflicts are more easily intensified only when others are not around, so I pretended to smile and stepped forward to mediate. Mom, Dad, I don't have much luggage. It's fine if I go to the airport alone, without waiting for their response. I got into the car and signaled the driver to leave quickly. Sure enough, before I even reached the airport, I received a WeChat message from Jessica. She said, "Hannah, don't get too cocky." Soon after, Susan also sent a voice message, "Be careful on the road. Mom and Dad will come to Norway to see you soon." But her voice sounded hoarse, as if she had just been angry. It seems I wasn't mistaken after all. At first, I thought Susan was just making casual remarks, but after I returned to Norway, Henry and Susan actually came to visit me. Even John showed up. They didn't stay long, only half a month. During this time, I took them to Tromsø to see the northern lights, went hiking in Lofoten, and ate seafood at Bergen Harbor. It was as if we were truly a close-knit family. Everyone tacitly avoided mentioning Jessica. Only when John and I went shopping alone did he casually complain to me. He said Jessica had gone crazy for some reason, insisting that Henry invest $100 million in a fantasy drama where she would play the female lead. But the Hudson family has been transitioning from real estate to service industries like hotels and restaurants these past 2 years. Precisely when funds are tight, Henry refused, so Jessica started ambushing him at his doorstep every day, either crying or making a scene. That's why they came to Norway. No wonder, I sneered inwardly. So they came here to escape their troubles. Seeing my silence, John pinched my cheek and said with a grin, "My dear sister is still the best. So thrifty, you turned down Dad's offer to buy you a villa here, insisting on staying in the school dormitory, saving money." I couldn't help but glance at him sideways, not sure if it's just my imagination. I always feel there's something strange about John. He grew up as a pampered young master. So why has he been so obsessed with money for 2 lifetimes in a row? If in the previous life it was because he despised me and forced me to sign the inheritance waiver, that would make some sense, but he clearly dotes on Jessica the most. Why does he become so harsh when money is involved? When the Hudson family left Norway, I sent Jessica a photo of us laughing joyfully under the aurora, along with a message, "Jessica, look, we're the real family here." Almost instantly, Jessica replied with, "Bitch, just you wait." Judging by her reaction, she must be completely devastated, but perhaps this is for the best. Sometimes, the more impatient a person is, the more likely they are to take extreme measures. The next time I heard from Jessica was during the second semester of my senior year. At that time, I had just finished writing my thesis and was about to sleep like there was no tomorrow when Jessica sent me a digital invitation. It turns out she starred in a wildly popular fantasy drama, which catapulted her to fame as a rising star. Currently, it's the end of the year domestically, with various award ceremonies happening one after another. The invitation Jessica sent me is for the most prestigious award ceremony for newcomers in the country, the Starlight Awards. The Starlight Awards selects a starlight goddess every 3 years, serving as the grand finale of the entire ceremony. Every artist who has previously held this title has gone on to have a bright and promising future. Its prestige and significance go without saying. Since she sent me this invitation, she must be determined to win the title of Star Goddess. It seems necessary to go back and witness this highlight moment in her life. Before leaving, I made a phone call to someone, telling them they could start the work. As soon as I got off the plane, I saw Ruby had sent me a long series of voice messages. I listened to each one and only then realized Jessica had landed me on a trending scandal, on Weibo. The hashtag, Hannah the Green Tea Bitch Exposed, was blatantly pinned at the top of the homepage. Right after came, Jessica deleted instantly, and, Jessica apologizes. Turns out around 3 a.m. today, Jessica suddenly posted a Weibo update. She wrote, "She was clearly just a pitiful adopted daughter my parents took in out of kindness. So how did things end up like this?" Accompanying the text were also two pictures. One is a photo of me when I first arrived at Hudson's house, at 18. I was wearing dirty, worn-out clothes, with even my shoes frayed at the edges, revealing a big toe. Though clearly timid and shrinking, I couldn't help but glance around at the beautiful house before me. The other is a screenshot of our WeChat conversation I sent her. There's a photo above of me and Hudson's family smiling joyfully under the aurora, and the caption, "See, Jessica, we're the real family here." Then, less than 5 minutes later, Jessica deleted this Weibo post. Shortly after, she posted an apology. "I was just feeling emotional late at night and wasn't thinking clearly when I rambled nonsense. Actually, Hannah and I have always had a great relationship. I hope no one misunderstands her because of the Weibo post I just made. Not the most sophisticated tea spilling, but effective nonetheless." I clicked open the comments section, and sure enough, the opinions were overwhelmingly one-sided. All sorts of my personal information were also dug up and posted online. That Hannah is clearly a manipulative bitch, yet Jessica still speaks up for her. How can someone be so naive? Don't you think the Hudsons are total suckers? They kindly adopted a destitute orphan, spent money and effort sending her to study in Norway, and instead of being grateful, she tries to steal the real heiress's place. How shameless can you get? The saying, "ugly people cause the most trouble," was made for Hannah, wasn't it? Did Hannah even use the Hudson's money for plastic surgery? The change is downright terrifying. Maybe it's just heavily photoshopped. Look how ugly she was when she was first adopted. Plastic surgeons aren't miracle workers. In the past, Henry and Susan would never have wanted their family matters discussed online. But now public opinion is entirely on Jessica and the Hudsons' side. For the Hudsons, who are currently expanding their market share in the food, beverage, and hospitality industries, this amounts to invaluable positive publicity, all gain and no loss. So Henry not only followed the public opinion trend by investing a hefty sum in marketing but also teamed up with Susan to play a double act after I got home. One claimed Jessica didn't mean it, while the other said they had already reprimanded her and she had realized her mistake. The core idea was simply to prevent me from getting angry over this matter and then taking it online to battle Jessica, otherwise. Once netizens find out I'm the real heiress, public opinion will definitely take a dramatic turn. I smiled and assured them I wouldn't. I also admitted it was my fault for sending that WeChat message to provoke Jessica in the first place. Seeing how cooperative I was, Henry and Susan finally relaxed. Only Linda took advantage of the moment when her family was chatting and laughing nearby to gently pat my shoulder. "Hannah, Linda knows you're an exceptionally good kid. Don't take those online comments to heart, just treat them like hot air. I'll make you some extra delicious food later." A full stomach won't leave room for those messy thoughts. I nodded vigorously at Linda, but I still couldn't hold back, shedding a single tear. On the day of the Starlight Awards, Jessica wore an exquisite haute couture gown by master designer Elie Saab, looking breathtakingly beautiful. Susan then took out her treasured emerald brooch, which she had kept for many years, and pinned it onto Jessica's dress herself. "Jessica, this was given to Mom by your grandmother, and now Mom is passing it on to you. I hope my Jessica will have a smooth and successful path ahead." With tears in her eyes, Jessica stepped forward and hugged Susan tightly, while pretending to be moved. She didn't forget to give me a provocative glance. That expression seemed to mock me for struggling so long, yet still being a loser. And once again, she effortlessly won the affection of everyone in the Hudson family. The entire award ceremony was long and tedious. Since I was sitting in the front row, I didn't dare openly use my phone and could only steal glances out of the corner of my eye. Today's trending searches are almost entirely dominated by the Starry Awards. Even the pre-event buzzword, Jessica Star Goddess, has already surfaced. Only the social news headline, "Abandoned Building Reconstruction Reveals Human Bones," managed to break through the Starry Awards frenzy and climb to the top spots, followed by a small, hot tag. Finally, it's time for the Star Goddess selection segment. Jessica closed her eyes, pretending to be nervous as she held Henry and Susan's hands. It wasn't until the host announced her name and thunderous applause filled the venue that she opened her eyes in delighted surprise. Lifting her skirt gracefully as she walked to the center of the stage, on stage, Jessica was crowned with the exquisite tiara reserved exclusively for the star goddess. Then she picked up the microphone and began her acceptance speech. "Thank you, judges and audience friends, for your love. Being able to stand on this stage today and receive the title of Starlight Goddess is all thanks to the support and encouragement from my parents and brother." The camera pans across the front row, showing Henry nodding approvingly, Susan waving cheerfully toward the center of the stage with a smile, and John playfully winking at the camera. Another round of enthusiastic applause fills the venue. Jessica continues, "Actually, there's one more person I'd like to thank, my dear sister Hannah. Without her, I wouldn't be where I am today." Her eyes sparkled as she looked at me, smiling brilliantly and unrestrainedly. "Indeed, without me, the true heiress. How could there be her, the false heiress who usurped the nest?" This was the highlight of Jessica's life: fame and fortune, a happy family, and a smooth road ahead. If time could freeze at this moment, she would have the most perfect and fulfilling life. Unfortunately, life is unpredictable. The big screen, which was supposed to showcase highlights of Jessica's brilliant acting, suddenly displayed something that shouldn't have been there. A man around 40 years old and Jessica were intimately entwined in bed. She lightly tapped the man's chest with her delicate, fair fingers. "Brother, you promised me the star goddess this time. You can't go back on your word." The man grasped her hand and brought it to his lips, slowly caressing it. "Don't worry, sis, not just the starlight goddess. I'll take care of all your future resources too." For a moment, everyone in the venue was stunned speechless. Only the continuous clicking of camera shutters from the media broke the silence. The video was very short, lasting only about 10 seconds. By the time the technician rushed over to debug the equipment, the screen had already gone completely blank. Jessica, standing at the very center of the stage, trembled uncontrollably from the sudden turn of events. The crown of the starlight goddess slipped from her head, landing with a crisp clinking sound. Henry and Susan, sitting in the audience, had faces ashen with anger, their breathing heavy. John was even more restless, turning his head away to avoid the sweeping cameras. Only I remained composed, calmly observing everything unfolding before me. "Jessica, don't be in such a hurry. I've got a big surprise for you later." The organizers were forced to terminate the live broadcast. They initially planned to have someone assist Jessica backstage to contain the current commotion at its source. Unexpectedly, a team of police officers suddenly appeared at the scene. The lead officer swiftly approached Jessica, who was already in a state of panic. "Ms. Hudson, we suspect your involvement in a homicide case. Please cooperate with the investigation and come with us." His voice was not loud, but it carried firm authority. Everyone in the venue heard it crystal clear. What the hell is going on right now? Wasn't Jessica supposed to be some rich heiress? How did she get involved in a murder case? This is the first time I've attended such a mind-blowing award ceremony. If this gets adapted into a movie, it's definitely going to be a box office hit. I suddenly really want to know what the Hudson family sitting in the front row is thinking. If I were them, I'd definitely want to find a hole to crawl into right away. For a moment, whispers filled the air. Henry's face darkened to the extreme. He and Susan exchanged glances before both getting up and leaving. John immediately followed them, and Jessica behind them had clearly reached the brink of a mental breakdown. She sobbed incoherently, "Officer, you must have made a mistake. Mom, Dad, brother, don't leave Jessica alone. Don't leave me here by myself." But none of them paid any attention to Jessica behind them. She merely quickened her pace and hurriedly left the scene. The investigation into the case progressed smoothly. The skeletal remains unearthed during the demolition of that abandoned building turned out to be those of my adoptive father, David. Before I was recognized as part of the Hudson family, Jessica had already known she was the fake heiress. To shut David up and prevent him from spreading rumors to Henry and Susan, she gave him a lot of money over time, until Henry and Susan discovered the truth themselves and brought me back to the Hudson family. Jessica thought she would no longer be threatened by David after that. To her surprise, David came forward with the transfer records and secretly recorded transaction videos, demanding an exorbitant amount from her. He even told Jessica that if she didn't pay him enough, he would expose everything publicly, ensuring she could never hold her head up again. But Jessica simply didn't have that kind of money to end the threat once and for all. She lured David to an abandoned building by the winding mountain road. Then, taking him by surprise, pushed him down, quickly dug a big pit and buried him, and that day happened to be my birthday banquet. David was a social outcast who often beat and scolded his wife. No one looked for him after he disappeared, let alone reported it to the police. On top of that, the building was in a bad location and had been abandoned for far too long. That's why the truth didn't come to light until now. It wasn't until I was reborn that I noticed something suspicious and immediately checked Jessica's dashcam. Only then did I understand why her previous disappearances were just minor dramas, merely attempts to win the affection and sympathy of Hudson's family. Yet on the night of my birthday banquet, I nearly lost my life. Turns out, she was still shaken after committing murder, which was why she almost collided head-on with a truck when Henry learned the investigation results of the case. He was so furious that he smashed a glass on the spot. Susan's expression was inscrutable, her words almost gritted through clenched teeth. I should have sent her back where she came from back then. The Hudson family wouldn't have suffered such humiliation otherwise. But soon Henry and Susan realized that Jessica's imprisonment brought consequences far more severe than just tarnishing the Hudson family's reputation. Those who manipulate public opinion will eventually be devoured by it. The fame Henry had gained for his restaurants and hotels by exploiting my negative trending scandals instantly turned into a blade pointed at his own throat. In an effort to salvage his reputation, Henry ordered his team to release a statement on the official website overnight. It claimed that I was the biological daughter of the Hudson family, while Jessica was merely an imposter. He thought this would shield him from being dragged down by Jessica. But little did he know it would spark an even greater media storm. Damn, I never expected Jessica to be the real scheming bitch. Not to be harsh, but Hannah really got the short end of the stick. When she was being torn apart online, the Hudsons not only refused to issue a statement clarifying things, but they even secretly used her situation for their own marketing. Now that Jessica's been arrested and their business is suffering, they suddenly decide to clear things up. Don't you think it's a little too late? Jessica is disgusting, sure, but the Hudsons are the absolute worst. Hannah must have had the worst luck in the world to end up with such selfish, hypocritical biological parents. Plus one, speaking for myself, I'll never spend a dime at any Hudson-owned hotel from now on, for an entire quarter. The sales figures for all the restaurants and hotels under the Hudson family were disappointingly low, and even their stock prices began a continuous decline. To make matters worse, at this critical juncture, Henry discovered that his most trusted son had embezzled a large sum of company funds to pay off gambling debts. John was addicted to gambling, frequently traveling between Macau and Las Vegas under the pretense of business negotiations. Not only that, but he also owed a substantial amount of money that remained unpaid, and this amount of money had far exceeded what the Hudson family could possibly repay. Henry was so furious that he had a heart attack on the spot and was hospitalized. Seeing the situation turning sour, John took the last bit of money from the company account and fled. Susan called me crying just as I had handed my master's to Ph.D. program application materials to my advisor. It seems it's about time to go back. Now Henry can't even afford a VIP hospital room anymore. His hair mostly gray, lying unconscious day after day, Susan suddenly looked like she'd aged over a decade. Her well-maintained face now full of exhaustion, where gold and jewels once hung everywhere, now there's only emptiness, whether it was because she wasn't in the mood to dress up, or because she had already sold them to cover losses. The moment she saw me enter, tears welled up in her eyes, and then she staggered to her feet, wanting to pull me into her arms, but I calmly took a step back and avoided her embrace. Susan looked puzzled and tentatively called out to me, "Hannah." Seeing my consistently cold expression without any reaction, she immediately shed a few more tears. "Hannah, do you look down on Mom and Dad now that we're down on our luck? Mom remembers you weren't like this before." I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Yes, the old me would have circled around them like a lapdog for their meager scraps of affection, but that person no longer exists. I had no desire to waste more words on her, so I took out a card and placed it in her hand. "Ms. Susan, every penny you and Mr. Hudson have spent on me since I returned to the Hudson family is in this card. Now I'm returning it all to you. From this moment on, we owe each other nothing." I paused briefly, then raised a mocking smile. "Of course, if you and Mr. Hudson ever face issues regarding your retirement care, feel free to sue me in court. I'll surely pay the alimony stated in the verdict, down to the last cent." Susan widened her eyes in shock. She had thought that by playing the victim and showing weakness, she could manipulate her always submissive daughter, ensuring she'd have someone to rely on no matter what. but she never expected me to say such things. Flustered, she blurted out, "Hannah, are you saying this out of spite because mom and dad didn't love you enough before?" A glint of resentment flashed in her eyes again. "It's all because of that black-hearted Jessica. If it weren't for her constantly sowing discord in our family, mom and dad wouldn't have treated you like that. You're flesh of mom's flesh. How could she not love you?" With that, she picked up the card and shoved it into my hand. As if that could prove something, I pulled my hand away, looking at Susan with a half-smile. Susan, don't you think you're being selfish and hypocritical? Couldn't you see through Jessica's petty, shameful tricks? Why not just admit it openly? The reason you all loved that imposter far more than me back then was simply because you couldn't accept a daughter who only had a junior high school education and was timid and ugly, wasn't it? If everything you've ever had remained unchanged, would you still say what you just said? Fool others if you must, but don't fool yourself. In the end, neither you nor Henry loved John, nor Jessica, much less me. What you've always loved is nothing but yourselves. So the children you raised with your own hands have all turned out just like you, selfish and self-centered. Susan stood frozen in place, stunned by my sudden outburst. She wanted to explain herself, but her mouth opened and closed repeatedly until she realized there was nothing left to defend. I had no patience left to watch her play the victim, so I turned and walked straight out of the hospital room. Stepping out of the hospital gate, a black Maybach blocked my path. It was Nathan. Come to think of it, this guy was still my creditor. Back then, he didn't want to marry Jessica but couldn't defy his parents, who had arranged this marriage for him, so I gave him a bad idea. First lure Jessica into the entertainment industry, then take advantage of her desperate desire to become famous by telling her what truly drives traffic in showbiz. A fiancé embroiled in scandalous relationships that become the talk of the town would naturally be unacceptable to the Stewart family. The condition for this exchange was Nathan stepping in to purchase that abandoned building by the mountain road on my behalf. Otherwise, the police will definitely have a hard time collecting evidence later. Of course, the money to buy the building was borrowed from Nathan. Judging by my current earning speed, a conservative estimate would be about 10 years to pay it back. Nathan leaned against the car and waved at me. Everything settled. I gave him a thumbs up with a smile. It's almost noon. Want to grab lunch together to celebrate? I shook my head. I'm flying to Norway this afternoon, then I'll take you to the airport. Without waiting for me to respond, he opened the car door and gestured for me to get in. We chatted about this and that along the way. It wasn't until boarding time that Nathan stammered out, "Hannah, if you don't mind, could I come visit you in Norway? I've heard the aurora in Tromsø is breathtaking." His features, usually so sharp and intense, now carried a hint of longing. I didn't respond. Seizing the moment when he looked at me somewhat dejectedly, I playfully booped his nose before darting toward the boarding gate. Turning back with a grin, I teased, "That depends on your performance." The plane ascended, piercing through layers upon layers of clouds. From now on, what lies ahead of me is a future as splendid as a tapestry of flowers. There will be many, many people who love me, and many, many people whom I love. That girl who once collapsed in despair from craving parental love she couldn't obtain has finally broken free from her shackles and soared into the sky. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.